How you doing, guys? I don't usually do episode reviews unless it's the first episode of a season, but this has been on my mind for a couple of days. I'm talking about the Mandalorian season two, right? The recent episode. Specifically, I want to ask you guys this question: Is the Mandalorian, to a fault, only enjoyable if you watch Clone Wars, Rebels, and engage in other Star Wars materials outside the movies? Here's why I bring that up as far as this episode is concerned. Mostly because of issues I have with Ahsoka's character, but also something that happens at the very end of this episode that reminds me of something that's been bothering me throughout season two, Mandalorian. So the first is four things: her look of Ahsoka, her voice, which was more of a minor issue, but it still points to something for me. The final fight scene with Ahsoka, and then sending Mando and Baby Yoda off again to do another thing, to go on another quest to do something. Okay, so first off, her look, right? Specifically, I believe they're called mandrels, like the tentacles that come down like their ears or whichever. I felt like they weren't long enough. But I've seen, for context, I've seen the last few episodes of season seven, Clone Wars. I do plan on watching more of Clone Wars, of Rebels. I am seriously considering watching everything or just watching like specific things from both series. But I know enough to know that she has a distinct look, right? That is clearly more pleasing to me in animation than it is on screen, because I felt like they were a bit too fat in a certain part of it, and they were too short for me. And there was something about her appearance that was jarring for me, to where it felt like she was in cosplay. To be completely honest with you, it felt like makeup as opposed to, oh no, this is Ahsoka. This is whatever race she is in her in this universe. But then you watch reactions, I think, to reassure myself that maybe it's just in my head. Then you watch reactions to it. Then you watch other people who are well read on it, and they go, "Oh, it's perfect. It's amazing." And that's one of the first signs where I think to myself, "Damn, is this show only designed for like hardcore fanboys, or is it just me?" This is something that's been like kind of eating at me a little bit. Um, Stuff like this, certain looks of characters. I think about the characters in episode three, the other Mandalorians, who looked a certain type of way, and it made me realize, damn, um, I wonder if it's just me, or is Din Djarin, by comparisons, he seems a bit muted. It seems like they don't like. I really liked his costume, and I still do in season one. But compared to these other characters, they seem a bit. He seems a bit muted. It seems like they're not putting the effort into him, and that I think about those characters, the other Mandalorians in episode three, Ahsoka, and my feelings on her costume in this episode, and it feels like whether it's good or bad, there's more attention on these other characters and the kind of the effort they put into their physical look, then into making sure everything's consistent with this show. With the Even though the visuals are great, it's just certain things that just gnaw at me. So that's one. That's my first issue, right? Secondly, her voice. So again, I'm talking as a novice, pun intended, right? I do feel like Rosario, she didn't become Ahsoka for me. She was Rosario Dawson playing Ahsoka, and I knew that through her voice. For me, um, it just sounded like her regular voice that, compared to the animated series, seemed a lot deeper. But I felt like I was forcing myself to. I was trying to convince myself to a fault that no, it's just because she's older. It's just because maybe she's a bit more jaded and bitter. But no, I know enough about Ahsoka to know that there's something about her personality that, compared to like a Anakin in the Clone Wars, um, even Obi-Wan, there's something a bit more fiery like a bit more. I don't know the words. I guess positive isn't precisely the right word, but that's the closest I'll come to it. There's something in her voice that just seemed. It didn't seem right compared to what I've seen of her in Clone Wars, right? What I plan to, because I've seen some other clips when she's speaking to people as well. You go on fandom sites, you talk to people, you have these kind of interactions, and they will say, "Oh no, this is perfect. She's the perfect embodiment." It's like, no, I need convincing. Her acting was good, but what convinced to me was her later on scenes with Baby Yoda or Grogu, whichever, and Mando. Those were the scenes where I had to see her multiple times interact with people, have quiet moments with people. Just as a statement by her talking, again, not convinced. She's a good actor, but it wasn't perfect embodiment. Whereas everyone is saying the otherwise, and it makes me think this might be just designed for Clone Wars Rebel fanboys, people who read, to a fault. Third thing, the final fight scene, specifically when she got disarmed. I'm over it now because I've watched it multiple times. That upset me. I won't lie to you. I understand on the one hand, you're trying to build tension. You're trying to raise the stakes, right? And also you're trying to pay homage to samurai movies, stuff that you see in anime, or so on and so forth. I do not like that. I felt like I was missing something again, where I needed to know if there were other people in this universe who were so skilled in using a bow, I say a bow, using a staff, a spear, whichever non-lightsaber type weapon that can be used to fend off someone with a lightsaber, because it felt like I was out of the loop as far as that was concerned, and it really made me feel some type of way, which like I was missing something. Sorry, my light went off. But what was I saying, guys? Yeah, it felt like I was out of the loop as far as like a specific thing in the Star Wars universe. Are there other warrior type groups? And I don't mean Mandalorians necessarily, because I know Beskar can fend off lightsaber strikes. But are there like other groups in this universe that can like defend themselves against people who have been trained with lightsabers? Because that makes me think of Star Wars differently. I think of people who have been trained, even though I know enough about Ahsoka to know that she wasn't a fully fledged Jedi. I think of them as like a higher level of warrior above most people, even to some degree Mandalorians, because they have force powers, right? But even though they have like a history of them and Warren, their longtime rivals, understand that. But I just think of them as a different class of warrior. So even if you're doing the homage to samurai movies where you're just trying to disarm, you're not trying to go all out like she would in like I saw her in the fight with Darth Maul in the end of Clone Wars, right? It still felt like that was disrespectful to show her getting disarmed. I would have preferred if they had more of like a sparring back and forth a bit longer, and then Ahsoka disarms the other lady, because Jedi's are supposed to. You're trained with a saber. I don't know. Again, it feels like I'm out of the loop with something that fanboys would love far more. Lastly, right, sending Mando and Baby Yoda off on another adventure again. This is the biggest thing that put me off. That I feel, again, maybe I'm just not the right type of fan that will truly enjoy this series. Throughout this series, Mando has had to go from one place to another, doing quest after quest, task, side quest after side quest, task upon task, just to get to this point, to point B. And then once he gets to point B, he has to go to point C, where then he goes through this zigzag. It's starting to lose, this show, its sense of urgency for me. But it feels like it's doing that just in order to pay fan service to people who know about what Ahsoka was referencing in this episode, Typhon, which again I learned is a planet associated legends. It's been in the canon material. I've learned this from YouTubers, but it feels like am required to learn it as opposed to something that I should be delighted to learn. I don't think that's a good feeling, and I can't be the only one who feels this way. Whether I'm a Star Wars casual fan, a novice, or not, and I feel like I need to do a video like this to support people on notice that is important for the future, to not just let this show, through its lore, through its world building, and the deep cuts, the deep knowledge and the references. It's important not to let that overshadow consistent, strong structure, storytelling structure, certain like consistent world building. Again, with the disarming thing in the final fight scene. Those the last two things especially hurt me. Like, I'm talking as a casual fan. Can you imagine how a hardcore fan would feel if they're a fan of the original movies, the prequels? It's crazy, man. maybe it's just me, guys. You tell me down below what you think. Is it just something I just need to watch the Clone Wars and Rebels? Is it just as simple as that, or is there genuine like issue with this show and how it's doing certain things and how it seems to be getting away with certain things in the eyes of the fans at the expense of losing interest with some other casuals or maybe hardcores too? I don't know. Tell me down below. Press that thumbs up button if you like this video and subscribe for more. Salute.